Hello. I've got two things to show you today, one of which is a little tutorial stroke demo on the cinch when you're trying to make a journal, kind of junk journal with it. The second one is what I'm actually going to do first, which is a quick update on the Etsy shop. So I have some packs going into my Etsy shop, not the digital shop. This is the physical shop, and I'll put the link to that down below. It's where I put the journals and things. These have been requested so many times. Obviously I have a Cricut, so I'm able to cut lots of shapes, and I've designed mine. I've made the cut templates myself. Very basic kind of ephemera, and this is an example of a pack. Now when I say example, the first 10 that I've created are pretty much identical to this because I use the same paper and I use the same orientation as I cut all the files. So in here is, I'm just going to grab a ruler so you can see the size. This is a file folder. Okay, it's not folded, so you can fold it wherever you would like to. Everything is backed. This is printed onto, I've put the information on the back of the packet. It's printed onto £97 or 167 GSM, and it's the heavyweight matte Epson photo paper. It's an inkjet print, and I've used Compendium Mark III. There are 45 full pieces in here. These are the pieces that came out of the slot pockets that I'm putting in because they make kind of cool little embellishments, but they're not in the count of 45 pieces, if that makes sense. So this is the file folder. So there is a file folder. There are two envelopes. One is without a window and one is with a window. So that's the envelopes. There are two specimen slides. I'm going to move that out of the way. There are two frames like that. There are two slot pockets. There are two tiny index cards in the pack. There are also two of those tiny little slot pockets. There are 6 tickets, and as you can see, everything is double-sided. There are 6 tabs, this size, full-size tabs. There are 2 kind of label shapes which came from the frames, but they are a decent size label. There are 3, I think, little arrows. Ooh, 3 little arrows. There are 8 postage stamp pieces. The pieces out of the envelopes, again, they're not counted, but they are in the pack, and those are the specimen slide inserts. There's some more of those postage stamps. There are 3 of these little kind of rosette shapes, you know. There are 2, oh, there's 2 of the little rosettes. That's another one of the tickets. 2 more of the tabs. There's 4 arrows, and there are 2 tiny little tabs that do actually fit on this tiny little slot pocket. So those are the pieces that are in the pack. There are images, obviously. You'll see the images in the Etsy listings. And at the moment I have 10 of these packs. I have no idea if people will want them, so I haven't gone mad. And if they don't sell, that's fine, because I will always use these pieces myself. And just slot those little bits in the back there. Like I said, you know, the odd one may have gone astray, but they're not included in the pack. So those are the packs. I also have started some photo packs. So these will be going into the shop soon also. These are not double-sided. And these are printed onto Profoto satin, and they are inkjet prints, and it's 265 GSM. Now there are 20 portraits this size, Obviously they might vary by a millimetre or so depending on the original photo size, and then there are 20 the same again in teeny little ones, and like I said, they are single-sided. They've got a lovely feel to them because they are that kind of satin photo paper, and it is good quality photo paper I've used. So, but they are inkjet prints, so you need to be mindful of that. At the moment I've only got 3 of these packs because they are entirely cut by hand, so they are quite time consuming, and obviously the other ones are done in the Cricut. So that's over with, and now we're going to start on the cinch. So this is some tips and tricks. I mean, I've only so far made 6, 7, 8. I've only made 11 of these, so I'm quite new to it, but because I've never used one before, I learned really fast certain things that you have to watch out for when you are creating this kind of journal with a cinch. Sorry, I've just been listening to Harry Potter audiobook. So the first thing I do is grab my trimmer once I have my book covers. Okay, so these are the book covers that I am using to make this journal. Okay, now I glue washi to hide the raw edge of these covers. On some I'm going to start using fabric, but I just need to see how that's going to work in the cinch because the holes will maybe punch through this, so I'm not sure how it's going to go through fabric and through a board cover. So I take my cover, prepare my cover, and then using this side I slide it into my paper trimmer. Watch my hair. I put it in flush against that edge, and I just move it down to about twice the width of that little overhang there from the cover to the paper. So it's just guesstimated. I don't do it measured. And then what I do is I put my little piece of washi tape on my board. Then I do the same with the width. I move it to the edge, and I just add a tiny bit. Now it's less important with the edge because if a page overhangs and you haven't cut that correctly, you can always fold it in. So that's a little tip. Make sure, and when you're cutting multiple pages, doing it this way is so much quicker than looking for the measurement each time you put paper in. So that is my tip number 1 for getting your covers prepared and the pages measured. So that's what I do because I can't deal with numbers very easily. That's my tip. Then what I do is I take all my papers and cut them all to size. Now some of the papers I've used are actually not as wide as the page, the book anyway, so that's fine. And then I cut them to the height. So all of my pages are then cut. Right, once I've got all my pages cut, I've got my covers, I've got all my pages. Now what I'll do is go through and decide some of these pages I've cut to the right width, but I've folded the little bit of excess over. Okay, and I've folded it over to make a pocket. Now it's going to go this way in my book, so spine this side. So when I sew really close to the edge on the side that's going to be cinched. And that's important because you don't want to cinch over your sewing. If you do, the sewing's going to come undone. So I've got a pocket. It's going to go this way, and that side is much closer stitching than that side. And I'll go through, and anything I want to sew, I will sew now. Other thing that's really important is you make sure you keep your pages in order while you're doing this, because it does get very confusing when you're putting them through the cinch. And again, this one you can see I've sewn much closer to the edge here than I have here, and this one's a pocket here and a pocket here. So that's what I do. Go through them all, cut them all, fold anything that I want folding. Here's another one, another example where I've stitched much closer there than there. And that's a little pocket. Now these ones are doubled over, and all I've done is I've glued very quickly around the edge because I've turned that into a double side. This is the Compendium Mark III. Now I did not I want the neater edge on the outside. So this is the edge that I'm going to cinch. If you've got papers with folds, again, make sure you keep them the right way round. That's another one that's been glued together. And this one I've sewn all the way around the edge to make 2 little pockets for this one. And this time the folded edge is going to be the edge that I cinch. So that is the papers for this teeny tiny little journal or notebook or flow book, whatever you call it. That's the pages ready. So the next thing we need to do is grab our cinch and our wire. This is the cinch that I have. I have no idea if there is a newer one out because I have had mine over 2 years, well over 2 years, possibly even nearer 3. But it had sat there and sat there and sat there, and I finally decided to get it out. So this is the cinch. I do not know everything about this. All I know is what I have learnt while making these journals. So I'm going to be using at the moment this wire here, which is 1 inch. And what you need to make sure when you buy wires is it's 2-to-1 pitch, and that relates to this and this. Somehow I think there's 2 of these to 1 of those, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but you need 2-to-1 pitch. There are also 3-to-1, so be careful when you purchase them. Now this is by Zutter. This is not the Cinch brand, but I did get these as a bundle from Amazon quite a long time ago. So that is what you need to do. Now, before I even start to think about putting my book together, once I've got my wire, I grab the cinch and make sure this is correct. So when I start, I haven't made any mistakes. And I'll show you that. It's set to 1. The largest you can get for this is 1 1/4. And you move this by just pushing and turning this knob. Okay, so that's how you move it. Just push it down and turn. It's quite clunky, but I make sure before I even think about anything, that's set to the size of the wire I'm using. Now, this particular wire I have cut to 10 prongs, 10 bits, because that is about right for this journal. Okay, so what you need to do is make sure you leave a long enough tail here and here when you cut your wire. A lot of people don't cut it until after. I do, because having a spare bit of wire flapping about to me is an unnecessary distraction. Before I even show anything, I'm going to tell you one quite big issue I have found when cinching. So I'm just going to undo my handle and this will lift. I'm going to turn my cinch this way so you can see in this back area. This back area here is where you cinch your spring. Okay, now what you're supposed to do is put your book when it's made here, and I'm showing you this because it's easier to show you before all the pages are in. Okay, can you see these gaps here? When you cinch, when you push this down, can you see that actually closes down? These little bits here often get caught in that when you're cinching, and you will end up with a bit sticking out the wrong way. Both of these do the same thing because you have to have your coil pushed against the back. But the one thing I would say when you first start is always look through this side when you're pushing your handle down, so you can see if you've got one of these things caught in there, because these wires are not cheap. I have, I don't know how many in the bin, and it's quite frustrating. And I could not work out what the problem was until now. So that's one thing to look out for. So now here is the not technical way that I put my book together. First thing I do is grab my covers. Start with the back cover, and I will push this into my cinch. Now on here, there is a centre. Now, when you have a cover that overhangs this area here, it's really easy to line it up and use this to push your book against, you know, like you would a trimmer. But on this, because this cover is quite small, it doesn't centre up. Okay, so I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to grab my book and put it into place, and I can see that this hole and this hole are going to be very close to the edge of my covers. Plus, I only have 10 prongs and there are 12 on here. So what I'm going to do is pull out number 12 and number 1, and you literally just pull them out, and I'll show you on a scrap. When I put this in and punch, there are now only 10 holes. If I put it in and they were all pushed in, that will give me the full 12 holes. Now, I don't intend on making anything too big that I would need more than 12 holes. But if you do need more than 12 holes, there are tutorials on how to use this little bit here. There's a little knob here that helps you anchor these pages so your holes will line up. But that's not something I intend to do, not only because it seems way too complicated, but I don't think I'll ever make anything that big. Whoops. Okay, so I broke my cinch. I've spent half an hour trying to get this. Let me just close this. I've spent half an hour trying to get this knob back in there in the right place, and I can't. But the good thing about it is, because I had pulled it out, these two here, as you can see, are not coming down to punch, and that's what I want. I want these 10 holes. So luckily I can carry on with the video and later see if my dad, who is a miracle worker when it comes to repairing things, can sort this out. So this is the cinch. I've explained a bit about the back. How far have we got? Okay, so I take my book cover and I don't do any of this measuring malarkey at all. On a larger book cover, let me just grab one. So this is one I've already made. Now what I do is I grab my book cover and I put it in and I line it up halfway. And this particular book, I used all 12 holes. But I still do this same process. If it's smaller than the base of my cinch, okay, I put the book in place and then I put 2 pieces of washi tape, and I'm going to show you. I put 2 pieces of washi tape lined up against my book cover, and I know it's going to be halfway. If it's smaller, this little thing will slide along, so that's fine. You can use that. But if I use that now, I'm going to have more room here and less room there, and I want mine even. So I always use a little bit of washi tape just to be sure that I'm not gonna have pages overhang the top or the bottom of my journal cover. I really hope this is clear, because like I said, I'm no expert. I'm going to punch along the inside spine. So I'm going to put my book cover in. I've got these 10 that will punch and these 2 that will not. And I'm going to pull it till it won't move. Use my handle and slowly punch that down. And you can see I have my holes. Now I'm going to do the other cover, because the 2 things you want to make sure are perfect are the covers. So I'm putting it in, lining it up with my washi tape, making sure that's dead center. Bring it down until there's a bit of a bite and you can't move your book cover, and then punch. Now, if I take my book covers, my holes are perfect. Perfectly lined up. That's what we want. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to systematically work through my pile of papers. Now my tip is, if this is the first time you have put one of these books together, work from the back, remembering you're cinching that side, and lay your papers down here. So start with them here, take a piece, turn it over, put it in place, line it up in between your washi tape. Can you see? I've got space at the top and the bottom, so I know this is not going to overhang. I also want to make sure my stitch line is between two of my knobs. Okay, I don't want to punch over one of my knobs. So I'm going to punch there. And there are my holes, and I've missed the stitching. So I'm going to put that to the right. So I'm going to take my next, here I've got 2 pages because they are identical. I'm going to put them in and punch. Okay. Next page, flip it over, put it in, make sure it's between my washi, and punch. Now, if you have not done this before, I would do 1 page at a time. I would not risk doing more than 1 page because you might get things upside down. You might get things, you might punch this end, for example, rather than that end. And you want to make sure any flaps are outside. Now, this particular piece, I want to make sure is lined up between 2 of the knobs again, so I don't get little half holes. And I might do this one at the top of the book, just to make sure I don't have any half holes. So punch that, and you can see it's only just caught it, but it has. If you get the odd thing, that's a tiny half hole. It's no big deal. It's a junk journal. So I'm going to quickly cut the rest of these and I'll be back. The last one I'm going to punch is this tiny little envelope, which I have only just decided to add. So I'm going to put this in and punch it. But you need to make sure your flap, again, is not the side you cinch. So now we've punched everything, I just want to show you at the back here, there's a drawer, and that's where all your holes are. Okay, that's where it's collecting all of those pieces. So now we have all of our paper. I'm just going to put the envelope in there. All of our pages have holes onto the next part of using the cinch. I'm going to take this off so you can see these pieces here. And I'm going to take this, and obviously we've got the right amount of holes for the right amount of peaks. Now this side where the peaks are wider, these little holes are where you need to line that up. Okay, and this will line up with every other peak. So I'm going to take my papers and turn them face down, and one at a time I'm going to thread them on. And I do one at a time because it's so easy to miss one, make a mistake. You just want to get this right. Okay, so each page, one at a time, is going to slot on to those peaks. So I'm going to do this and speed it up and be back. All of my pages are now in place. So now I need to grab my covers. Now, if you open your covers as they would be in the book, this is the front cover and that goes on first. And this is the back cover and it goes on second. And what you want to do is have your back cover facing your front cover. So this is going to hide the closure when we cinch these together. Now I'm going to take that out and we now have our journal all ready to close. So I've got my cinch ready. You now need this end and you now need to make sure, double check your spring is the right size for your setting on your cinch. Now, can you remember I showed earlier, this edge here has to butt right up so it forms a C against that back wall. Both the top and the bottom need to be touching this back piece here. So I'm going to slide mine in. And like I said to you before, I'm keeping an eye on this hole here. Just going to turn my cinch round this way. I know it's not any easier for you to see, but it is for me. So I've got my coil. I'm pushing it gently against the back wall with my hand. And now I'm going to close my cinch. Now this will only close to the size of your spring. So providing you have set this correctly, you can't over close your coil. So I'm going to bring it down all the time, keeping an eye inside, making sure nothing's caught and it's still nice and even. And I'm slowly going to push that all the way down. I hold it in place for a second or two. My pages are nice and loose, so they're not in the way. And there we have our closed coil. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this cover to the back and fold our pages over. So that join is now in between the back cover and the back page. Let me move the cinch out of the way. So there we have our little journal. So these are handmade, they're not perfect, they just aren't, not mine anyway. But generally we have a little notebook, it's got some pockets in it. I would call this a notebook, not a junk journal, because there's absolutely nothing in it. I'm sorry, this was a terrible video. I'm going to give this away to somebody who's watched the video, and if you would like me to put you in the draw, please put a little comment below, like the video, subscribe to my channel, and I will do the draw for this video on Monday. So if you would like to receive this, if you would like to be entered, I will let you know who gets it on Monday, because I do have another giveaway coming up on my channel. It's not a giveaway from me, it's another crafter, but I do have a giveaway coming up. So let me know what you think of this. And I'm sorry the video is not exactly brilliant, but I'm new to this too. I'm just, if I find any more tips and tricks, I will share them with you as I learn. But the biggest thing is making sure those coils are not trapped at the back when you're closing it. These will be in the Etsy shop. I will be back really soon with a make with my new kit. I have a new kit also out today. It's called Green Blue Hue. There's lots and lots of elements. I just want to give one quick tip. These tags are double-sided, so you can fold them if you want to. Now, I know a lot of people have said this in the past. Why do I add backs? Because you're using more ink. However, you've got the option. You can use it as a back, or you could cut this out and you've got two tags. So you could either have twice as much ephemera, or you can have a back on some of the things that are in the kit. But these would make great kind of layered tags. They're pretty versatile for any kind of kit, any kind of journal you're making. But there are lots and lots of elements here, all in blues and green hues. And you can see I've put lots of cracks and grunginess in these. And like I said, I've made backs for all of the tags. So I hope you like that. That's in my digital Etsy shop. And I will be coming back with a make with these. I will see you all really soon. I'm so sorry. Oh dear, it has been a funny old video, but I'm gonna try and repair. Oh look, it matches, it matches. I'm gonna try and get my cinch repaired, and I will be back with another video. Take care, bye.